everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the KickBack, episode 10. We hit double figures, which I'm quite pleased about, to be honest. But hopefully we can hit another 10 in the near future, as the guests are really rolling in at this point. You're with me, AlehStair. As usual, if you do like what you're seeing, hit like, hit comment, make a comment, and hit subscribe. Thank you. Today we have, I'd say, a real cornerstone of the FM community. He's been in the sort of scene for a while. Very well established and very well respected individual. It's Curty.
I mean, I'm not sure about respected, but I have. Yeah, I do. I have been here a while. I do tend to hang around like a bad smell. So yeah,
here's hoping.
When you said the guests are rolling in as well, I just envisaged Dupe making a fat joke. So
maybe we'll have him on and he'll get his chance. Who knows? Who knows what's lined up? But how are you doing,
mate? If you do, leave a good couple of hours spare because that guy can talk. Yeah, I'm very well. I'm very appreciative of you of you having me on here. So yeah, looking forward to getting down and dirty.
That's the one. I appreciate you coming on as well. Obviously, things like this wouldn't happen if there weren't so many really good people established in the community. So I do appreciate making the time after a work day as well to sit down and talk with me.
I've been in training all afternoon, so I was about ready to shoot myself in the head. So I'm just glad that this is happening, to be honest, because otherwise it would have been I'd have just had like compliance training ringing in my ears all evening.
Ooh, compliance training. You know that it's always that sort of like really obvious stuff, like lock your laptop.
Oh, and it's so like, honestly, they kept asking little questions about if you saw someone sexually harass a co-worker, is that a bad thing? It's like, of course it is. Why do I need to answer this question? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, proper stuff like that. And it's like, if you saw like somebody bullying someone else, how would you feel if you saw that? And I'm like,
it's just amazing. It's just box ticking stuff, and someone's getting paid to come up with those surveys.
Yeah, unbelievable. Especially the ones with the videos on them. Do you know, like the ones that have the videos of the scenarios?
The real sort of cheesy 80s style acting. Yeah, I know.
Oh, we know the one. Anyway, we've already derailed. This is great.
We digress.
Three-hour podcast. Let's go. But I'll sort of start with the same question we sort of ask everyone when they come on. What footballing moment did you see? Not necessarily the first moment you saw, that really just pulled you into the sport and kind of began that sort of love and affinity towards it?
I think that's a good. I think my kind of. I honestly can't remember a time where I wasn't into football. So it's very difficult for me to like pinpoint a moment, but I do. I never really got along with my dad as a kid. Yeah. But the one thing we did bond over was football. And I'm going to show my age here, but I have very, very hazy recollections of watching the 1986 World Cup. Probably not live because I think it would have been shown quite late, but certainly sort of obviously it would have been all over the news, the whole hand of God stuff.
Yeah.
But I do remember that sitting in the lounge with my old man like quite vividly, and him like basically shouting every curse word under the sun. And I think from there, I became like a massive John Barnes fan. John Barnes was like my hero. I've got a signed picture of him actually somewhere. But John Barnes was like my hero when I was like a real kid, and I used to think everything that he did was mesmerizing. So I kind of grew up before I actually went to my first ever game. Those early years of watching football, I was kind of like a Liverpool fan. I think it was just because they were winning everything all the time. So and my old man was a Man United fan.
Okay.
And because we didn't get on particularly outside of football, I think maybe I jumped on Liverpool because it wound him up as well. So
I respect that. I respect that.
yeah. None, he never tried to like dress me up in Man United kits or anything like that. He just, let me do my own thing, and I just turned against him. But my first ever game that I went to was it was an Aldershot game. Which it's funny whenever I say I support Aldershot, they go, "What league are they in?" They're in the conference. All right, they're in the conference. But I went to an Aldershot game. I must have been 11, I think. So probably quite late in terms of, when people go to football games and stuff. And I never went with my dad. It's weird. I say I bonded with my dad through football, but he never took me to a game or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I went with a friend to an Aldershot game, and ever since then I've been an Aldershot fan. The first game, it was an FA Vars third round cup game against Wimborne Town. And Mark Frampton scored in the 89th minute to win 1-0. And it was honestly one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life to this day. It was amazing. So I was hooked on Aldershot from them. But yeah, certainly from an early stage. Like I say, I remember some of the early World Cups. I remember watching a lot of football with my dad, especially when United sort of turned a bit better. I think 89, 90, 91.
When the Fergie era started to dawn.
Yeah, I remember that 1990. Is it 1990 FA Cup win against Palace? I remember that Lee Martin goal, and I remember the Cup Winners' Cup in '91. Watching that with my old man. I think United beat Barcelona 2-1. Mark Hughes scored 2. So yeah, so lots and lots of little early fragments of memories, but not one that I can actually pinpoint, unfortunately.
No, I guess they all kind of merge and gel together to create that sort of affinity towards the sport itself, right?
Yeah, well, I'm 40 years old now, so I mean, my memories are getting worse and worse. So, yeah, it's just just a collection of lots of little things. Yeah. Yeah, the Liverpool stuff. I can only assume, because obviously I live in Surrey, and although now I think supporting, the whole you've got to support your local team, I think is bullshit. Basically, football's a global game, right? Ultimately, how many Mancs are playing for Man United? So I think, but at the time, obviously, it was a little bit more frowned upon. Yeah. So I can only assume that I supported them because they were winning everything. And then, like I say, as soon as I went to a game and experienced it firsthand, I was very much caught up.
Do you still have that sort of affinity towards Liverpool, or are you...
No, not to that extent. I've enjoyed watching them the last few years, as any football fan I think would, unless you're a proper die-hard Evertonian or Manc or whatever. I think if you can look at football objectively, anyone, you've got to be able to appreciate how good Liverpool have been the last few years. But
I hate how good they are.
Yeah. Who do you support?
Manchester United. So
you're a United. So there you go. Yeah, you probably hate it, but I think secretly you'd love it to be your team, right? Playing that kind of football. That style of football, even if you don't like the personnel necessarily.
Not even secretly, openly. If I chose to play like Liverpool today, I'd do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd quite like Aldershot to play like Liverpool as well, but unfortunately, that's quite a way away.
Well, how's Aldershot's season gone so far?
Oh, mate, it's dreadful. The last few years have been an absolute shambles. So we got close to the playoffs a couple of times.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago. But then I think Aldershot are very much one of the poorer clubs in the division. And especially with some of these bigger clubs coming down from the Football League, they've got a bit of cash or whatever. And Aldershot, it gets to sort of game week 1 and they're still scrabbling around trying to sign players.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a couple of seasons ago. It got to the end of July almost, and we had 5 players on the books. Honestly, it's a bit embarrassing. And so the last few years, we nearly went down. We actually got relegated, but got a reprieve because Gateshead went bust. So ended up staying in the conference purely out because of that. And then this season, I think they've won 1 game in 8 or 9. Oh. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good for us this season. But to be honest, as a supporter, it does mean if we go into the National South, it it means going to away games and stuff would be a lot easier because they'll be a lot closer.
Oh, but you regularly go into all the games, sort of thing.
No, not so much now, because it's 20 quid a game and it's absolute dross to watch.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to justify it. And obviously during the pandemic, you couldn't go at all.
Yeah.
So I'll jump back on the bandwagon soon, but
when the price is right.
Well, or when they start to win a few games here or there, because there's not a lot that's drawing me to them so far this season.
That's
like over the years, I've given them enough money, throughout various different channels, and I'm just like, do you know what? I'm a little bit at the end of my tether.
No, fair enough.
I need something back. I need something in return, man.
It makes the Manchester United issues I'm struggling with seem quite mediocre. But I am surprised at 20 quid, because I left uni 2020 and you could get Premier League games from the SU. I know they were discounted for students, but still, Premier League games from the SU, like 22 quid?
Yeah.
That's mad.
To be honest, you look at like season ticket prices at the start of the season, right? Older shots are generally more expensive than clubs like Reading, who are obviously in the Championship. And the argument is obviously that Reading are expected to sell more, so therefore they can afford to make it cheaper. But actually, I just think that's nonsense. Like Woking are obviously if you know your Surrey geography, Woking are sort of local rivals.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, they reduced their season ticket price to 99 quid.
What?
And which is amazing value over the course of the season.
Obviously, yeah.
So they had people snapping their hands off, and I just think some sort of innovation there would not go amiss. Some sort of someone to think a little bit outside the box, because at the moment they're like, well, we're not bringing enough money, so therefore we need to charge more. But then by charging more, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot, right? So
I've always thought that, like, my local team growing up was Port Vale, and they have like an 18,000 seater. Match day, you'd get about 5,000 or 6,000 people rocking up. And I always thought if you dropped the price a little bit and got 10,000 people in, surely you'd make more money. I mean, I don't know if that'll be necessarily the case with a team like Aldershot. Obviously, I don't know what your attendance is like on a home day, but
it's difficult because when it's a vicious circle, right? Because the team aren't playing well, so therefore, and I'm guilty of it as well. Obviously, I'm not going regularly, but the crowds are dwindling. They need to like win on the pitch, but to win on the pitch, they also need a bigger budget, which means they need more crowds. So it's a real sort of chicken and egg situation, and it must be a horrible situation to be involved in. Certainly if you work at the club, and I know a few people that work at the club, and I've had relationships with them around the Football Manager stuff, which has been great. But I don't know. At the same time, as a fan, and I'm sure a lot of the fans feel the same, we just feel like we're not getting anything in return. Do you know what I mean? And I know you shouldn't ever take anything for granted, and you kind of, when you sign up to support a club, you sign up, in sickness and in health, right?
It's like a marriage, 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's dire at the moment, and yeah, I don't know. I know the physio's actually in the FM community. The guy called French Bertie.
Oh, I know. He's been on the Waste Possession drafts before.
Yeah, really nice guy, and he's the physio at Aldershot, and he messages me every week. He's like, "Are you coming this week?" Because to be fair, he just wants to have a beer, I think.
Yeah,
and say hello.
Get me on the stream of Showdown, please, over a pint.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I mean, if you give me a free ticket, I'll come, George. But
I mean, that's my plan now. After realizing you're so close to me.
Yeah, we'll have to get down to a game.
Yeah, I'll be an Aldershot fan for a day.
Happy days.
But yeah, I feel like this conversation's depressing, and I don't want to do that for much longer. This is supposed to be a good fun time, so we'll caveat onto sort of the game Football Manager, and where did that sort of influence originate for you, like in terms of your first copy or seeing it for the first time?
Well, I've been playing football management games. Before Championship Manager was a thing. I remember playing a game called Tracksuit Manager.
Ooh.
Back on, I can't remember if it was my old man. Basically, my old man had a computer. Right, he always had a computer. Whether it be an Atari, he had an Atari ST. He had an Amiga 500. At various points. So he's always been into like football management simulation type games, and we were never really allowed to play them. We were never allowed to like touch his computer. It was his kind of safe space, if you like.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, "What a dick!" Like, I just want to play on computer. But in fairness, now, like, we all need our little havens, don't we? We all need our little safe space. So
yeah,
fully understand it now, but. He never really used to let us play him. So I used to just, honestly, much like people do on Twitch, I guess, with streamers, I just used to sit and watch him play. Like, and like occasionally I'd sort of chirp up with like, oh, maybe you should play Peter Beardsley there, Dad. So we went through a few different games just like that. So Tracksuit Manager, not Premier Manager. I don't know. There's so many different ones, but yeah, he bought the first Championship Manager, and played it, and you could play multiplayer if you like. You could play two players. So at one point, he sort of with me sat next to him for 5 hours every evening or whatever, just went, should we play a game together? And I remember he was Man United, I was Liverpool. And just through watching him play Championship Manager, I instinctively knew what I was doing. I knew how to play the game. And I remember the first ever save I did was with him, and I won the European Cup with Liverpool, and he was fuming. Oh, it was so good. He was fuming. He'd been playing this game for ages. I picked it up straight away and win the European Cup. Loved it.
I bet it was like, I can't believe I've let this look.
He's just sort of throwing the computer out the window.
Why did I let this prick play?
Yeah, so after that I was banned again for another. So my relationship with Football Manager, Championship Manager started from the early days.
I mean, I think we've just confirmed that Curty's dad was the first ever Football Manager streamer. Judging by that conversation,
yeah,
I think
IRL streamer.
Yeah, literally. I think we can make that claim. How did that turn into content creation then? Because I before doing this interview, I haven't told you this. I went onto your channel and sorted it oldest to newest, and looked at your sort of first episode or two, just to kind of gauge where you'd come from and where you sort of are now. And you have come quite a long way. Like, if you take that into your, like, Streamer Showdown punditry, I think would be the right term for it. The sort of eloquence, how you speak in, it's really come a long way from that point. But what started that initial point itself?
I started my YouTube channel off the back of watching Ben's Parma drama series.
Okay.
I remember watching that and just thinking, I'm pretty sure I could do that. Like, I could have a go at that. And obviously, the idea and execution is often miles apart.
Yeah.
Which it certainly was for me in initially. But I'd actually weirdly, I can't find the video. And I can't remember what YouTube channel it was, but I started a YouTube channel, or I had a YouTube account, if you like.
Yeah.
Like 2013, I think. And I actually uploaded a video of Football Manager. So I was playing a Southampton save, FM13. I won back-to-back Champions Leagues, and I'd been doing a lot of reading of blogs and the Football Manager forums, because I'd had a couple of years off of FM.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of FM09 and then didn't buy FM10 or 11. And I bought FM12 towards the end of the life cycle of it. So between FM09 and FM12, if you load those two games up, they're completely different. Like miles apart. So I bought this FM12 thinking like, oh, you could just step back in, but actually there was so much to it, and I had to like do so much reading. So I just consumed blogs. I consumed all the tactics information on the forums. And so much of it. And I remember there's a guy called S. Fraser who was like quite a prominent blogger. He actually died. I think he committed suicide. Really, really sad story. And I remember seeing a comment on one of his forum posts. Oh, I'd love to see this guy make a video. And I was like, okay. So I had a Mac, an iMac. It's actually that one there in the background.
Oh,
I had an iMac. And I was just like, right, I'm playing FM13. I've got this Southampton save. I'm just going to like fire up QuickTime and record it. I don't even remember if there was what the audio was like. But it was like a 20-minute video of me playing just a random Champions League game of me playing Olympiacos and just like how I managed changes in game and stuff like that. And I thought that'd be all right. So I just uploaded that to YouTube. It got bugger all views, like. And in the end, I deleted it. I think I might have deleted it before I uploaded my first West Ham save.
Yeah.
Onto YouTube. But yeah, digressing again. But yeah, basically, I watched Parma Drama and I just thought I could probably have a go at that. And I had no idea what it involved. I had no idea what equipment I needed. I just knew that I thought, at some point I might be able to do that. So just had a go, and like. It was one of those. It didn't really get many views, and it wasn't very good. And it took me about 6 or 7 episodes to even get any audio sorted out properly. And then I started making like a couple of weird little funny intros, which I still look back on to this day. Actually, like just really stupid, but were funny at the time, and just people seem to like them. So I was like, yeah, I'll carry on with this. And see where it goes.
Yeah, I think the only difference between your story and a lot of others is it was Ben that introduced you and not Work the Space. But it seems that it's always that, I guess we've labelled it as you see someone doing something, and I was guilty of it. That's how I started doing Football Manager stuff. Like I saw Ben and was like, I could do better than what he's doing. I'm sure I can. That sort of like almost self-aware arrogance that kind of sets up that next step. And I think it's quite interesting that everyone seems to just kind of have that thought before they go in.
And there's the difference when it comes, like I say, the difference between idea and execution.
Yeah.
Is incredible. So you're right. Like I watched Ben and I kind of thought to myself, oh, he's almost a bit sort of Gervaisy with that kind of level of humor, and I just thought to myself, I could be a funny guy. I'm quite, that's my kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
And then if I watched back that first video, I'm sure I'd get a little bit sick in my mouth, to be honest with you.
Just a little bit cringe.
yeah, definitely.
It's good. It's always, I mean, I think it's refreshing for people who are starting out because I know a lot of people sort of private their videos as they get older, but I think it's something that I don't think many or enough people do when starting their own sort of journey. They always look at what you're doing now and not what you did 7 years ago when you started to. And like I said, everyone has that self-aware arrogance moment. Everyone starts from that point, but obviously some people make it further than others. And I think if people could just took, a bit of time to kind of look at what had been previously done and how it developed, they'd be more successful with it.
Yeah, I think it depends where you want to go with it, really. Like if I was trying to make a career out of this, maybe I would hide the stuff that I didn't want people to see, because it might give the wrong impression or something like that. If someone was binging through a couple of my videos and they get recommended episode 1 of the West Ham save in FM 16 or whatever it was, they might go, oh, hold on a minute, what the hell is this? Yeah. So I can understand it from that angle, but like in terms of, I mean, I've just got no reason to hide it, really. I'm not trying to make this a gig, not trying to make this a full-time career. This is just something I do for a bit of fun, and occasionally it's not so much fun, and that's why I have flits and starts all over the place. So, it is what it is. Ultimately, I've got nothing to hide. I'm not someone that's you know, if I had any like shame, if you like, I wouldn't be making Football Manager videos on the internet, right? So,
Yeah.
so I don't care. Like, you know, if people find it, they find it.
Yeah, nah, I know. I know when I've mentioned it to my friends, I've said, like, you know, oh, I've done this, I've done that. And they're like, oh, that's really good. Then there's a bit of a pause and they're like, it's a bit sad though, isn't it? And I'm like, maybe a little, but I'm
You know what?
vibing.
Do you know what? Part of the reason as well, and this, I don't want to ruin the tone a little bit
Oh, no,
here,
no.
but another huge part of the reason why I started doing this was because, like, I've always been someone that's like a bit not like ashamed as such, but I've always been someone that's like had sort of slightly out there interests that other people or certain groups of people might not get. So, for example, you know, I'm a big wrestling fan, but a lot of my group of friends just didn't get it when I was growing up, so I had no one really to talk to about it. You know, there was a couple of my older mates who I used to watch like the old WrestleManias with and stuff, and we'd, you know, stay up and watch the Royal Rumble or whatever, who I could talk to, but I'd kind of lost touch with a few of those guys, and you know, but so the people that I'd surrounded myself with weren't interested in that. So if I sort of brought it up, it wouldn't be like laughed down or anything like that, because I try not to surround myself with people that would, you know, that would be negative about one of your interests. But at the same time, no one really got it, so I just kind of suppressed it, if you like. But a good friend of mine, his wife died in 2016, like very sudden, and like it just made me think, like, you've just got to let your freak fly, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you're into something, just be into it. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, you know, so from that point on, it's like, yeah, love wrestling, don't care who knows it. Yeah, I make Football Manager videos on YouTube and stream live on Twitch, don't care who knows it. You know, it's what I'm into. You know, you might be into, I don't know,
I'm
like
into wrestling too.
bird watching. Well, there you go, yeah. You know, but you might be into like bird watching or something like that, and it's like, okay, that's cool. You know, tell me something about bird watching.
Yeah, so, it's one of them. If you think it's cool, then it's cool.
Exactly, and I just thought, do you know what? I don't care what anyone thinks. Like, if I'm going to make a YouTube video and my mates want to laugh at it, they can. And like, to be fair to them, like, everyone's been dead supportive. Some people don't get it, but that's fine.
Yeah,
you know, I literally do have a mate who's into bird watching, and I don't get that. So,
no, I can kind of relate to you on that one. For me, it was I was in just finishing my first year of the sixth form, and there was a guy I knew from high school, and we were quite good friends in high school. We weren't as close in college because we weren't doing the same courses. He was doing sciencey stuff, I was doing financy stuff. But whenever we saw each other, it would be like a hug and, you know, how you doing? And we had the same driving instructor. So whenever I was on lesson with a driving instructor, it was like, oh, how's he doing on his? And then one day, I went to read Friday prayers at the mosque when I was a better Muslim. And we spoke about him on that day. And then by the time I'd got home, he'd had a motorcycle accident in Pakistan when he was on holiday at 17, and it took his life.
Wow.
And it was one of them, like, when that happens at that age, because you don't expect that when you're 17, but when that did happen, I was like, I can't afford to kind of not be and not do what I want to do. Like, me before that moment probably wouldn't have done this sort of thing. Like, I've never spoke to you before, and we're able to hit off a good conversation. I wouldn't have been able to do that before that moment.
It hits you hard, doesn't it? And like for me, and it sounds like the same for you, but for me, it was just like, life's too short to worry about like what other people think.
Exactly.
And, you know, as long as you're happy, and I want this on my gravestone, do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because as long as you're happy, you're not hurting anyone, you know, just do what you like. Like, do what you enjoy, and do what you know. Want to go and watch I don't know. Well, no, I probably won't. I was going to say something I probably shouldn't. You know, you could just do whatever makes you happy, as long as it's within the bounds of the law.
Yeah, as long as it's all good, then go for it. But yeah, I think I'll pull it back sort of on track. At what point did those YouTube videos that, you know, West Ham save or the saves after that start to gain that sort of traction, and you started to become sort of the Curty that we know, who's established in the community and has, good relationships with a lot of the other big guys in the community as well.
I think to be honest, I think it was like a bit of collaboration, really. So when I first started doing YouTube, very much kind of a bit of a lone wolf, I did that annoying thing that everyone does when they first start out. You tweet at Ben or you tweet at Jack. It's like, oh, check out my video and stuff like that. It's like, don't do that. But I definitely did it. And to be fair, I think it was Nerdphonic actually that first replied to me. So he'd just gotten a little bit of a bump actually. He was quite new on the scene as well. He was doing a Blackburn Rovers save.
Yeah.
And I think he had become friends with Ben, so Ben and Jack, I think, both gave him like a little shout out. And to be fair, his videos were great. Really, really good quality, even though he was just starting out. And I'd be interested. I haven't gone back and watched them, but I'd be interested to go back and watch them and see how they hold up. But at the time, I remember enjoying them a lot. And he actually replied to me and just basically said to me exactly what I needed to hear, which was, this is a bit shit. This is a bit shit. In that kind of way, if you know Nerdphonic, you know it's not malicious. It's just coming from an honest place, and he will always tell you the truth. If you ever ask Nerdphonic, like if you ever want a critic, and Nerdphonic's going to hate me for this because his DMs might get bombarded now, but if you ever want a proper critic, just DM Nerdphonic. So I'd had that conversation with him, and then at the start, I can't remember if it was at the start of FM 17. I became part of the FM Scout YouTube channel.
Okay.
So we had a really, really good team at the time. So there was myself, Teach, who I don't know if you're familiar with, doesn't create Football Manager content anymore, but was very, very prominent for a bit. Dave Azzopardi, guy called FM Life, Aussie guy called Troy, who again has done some amazing content, but not so much for the last couple of years, and Bood FM. And we were creating, basically it was like 5 videos a week, so we were doing 1 a week each for the channel for a good period of time. And so we were working together in terms of ideas, in terms of the content we were creating, and we did a couple of podcasts called Talking Balls, which went over quite well because not many people were doing that sort of stuff at the time in the community.
Yeah.
So I guess and from doing that stuff on YouTube, on FM Scout, FM Scout at the time had, I don't know, 40,000 subscribers or something. Maybe less than that. I can't remember. But, off the back of that, a lot of people subscribed to my channel. And so my audience grew a little bit. But I guess it was only really when I went to Twitch that it became probably a little bit more prominent, I guess.
How did that transition happen? What made you kind of make the jump onto Twitch? Because it's completely different to YouTube and the way it's formatting.
So different.
You can't edit. That's a big one.
Yeah, but I think at the time that was part of the attraction for me. So I remember always being like, I don't get Twitch. Don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, why would I sit for 3 hours and watch someone play Football Manager? And then Teach and Dupe were playing a network save that they started streaming on Twitch. And I remember just being like, I was at work actually, and I just had them on in the background. And after a while, I'd basically put work aside and I was just watching the stream. I was that engrossed, and like they were having like the best time on stream, just streaming. You were getting that instant feedback because they had, the chat was buzzing on both sides, talking amongst each other and stuff. And it just looked like a load of fun. It looked like if you're having a party with your mates, but that party was Football Manager. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, I need to have a go at this. So again, similar to YouTube, watching someone else and thinking, I could probably do that. So I reached out to both those guys. I knew them quite well at this point. Reached out to both those guys and I was just like, look, I want to start streaming. And, both of them were amazingly helpful to get my Twitch channel set up. It was a bit harder to do back in 2017. which seems crazy because we're only 4 years on, but now it's just, it's not that difficult to set up, is it? And there's so many guides and stuff around. But there was that little bit harder to do back in 2017. And so, yeah, started streaming on Twitch. And because of being, having a little audience on YouTube and a small following on Twitter and stuff as well, I had a reasonably good audience straight away. Like, if I'd been starting now and streaming to sort of 1, 2, 3 people, I think I would have found it quite tough.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure it is. But like, because of what I'd done before, I mean, I was streaming to like 25 people straight off the bat, which was which was amazing, and it didn't take long. Because I was relatively consistent at the time, believe it or not. It didn't take long to kind of grow that audience. And then off the back of Teach and Dupe and their network save, and then a few other people starting to stream as well, we started WeStreamFM, which again was, collaborative effort to try and, we were all mates first, and we still are mates to this day.
Yeah.
But it was very much an effort to try and bring out the best in each other and try and lift each other in terms of streaming and following and what have you. So, yeah, I guess those first couple of years were amazing. Really, were amazing.
Yeah, I get that as well, because it's like I mean, it's so cliche to say it because we say it every episode, but Football Manager streams are just chatting with someone in the background, and that's all. We've heard this conversation about 5 times on that statement.
And when you can talk as much bullshit as I can, like, it
helps.
it's yeah, definitely.
But that's the thing. Like when I'm streaming, like obviously I've been there with 0 followers, coming in, and when there's just like 2 or 3 people watching you and no one's talking, mentally it's so draining. Like, but then when you've got a healthy 15 people, everyone's talking, everything's popping off, that 4 hours of doing that is a much less mental toll than the 1 hour of just not having anybody there. And I think I think that's a main reason why it's good to have that initial following, because it's very easy to lose interest when you just feel like nothing's happening with it. And I've done that. I took a break for similar reasons to that in the past. But yeah, like having that sort of following obviously does sort of help. Was it in the early days, did you kind of stick with that initial 25 sort of people in, or what sort of rate did it grow? Because I could imagine when you started there wasn't as many names on the block sort of thing.
No, there weren't as many people streaming, but it was still a competitive space, and like, I think there are more eyes on the game. It's an interesting one, this, because I think a lot of people think, oh, you started doing it quite early, so therefore it must have been easier.
Yeah.
But actually, there were fewer streamers, but there were also fewer people watching.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into account. But I grew quite quickly. So I started, I think, in the May or June of 2017, and I got partnered on Twitch by the time it got to April.
Oh, that's all right.
The next year, so yeah, like not 9-10 months later or something like that. So the growth, the kind of growth in that first year was incredible. And back at that point, I sort of, because it was new and exciting and all this kind of stuff, and I was a bit fed up at work and what have you. I had kind of aspirations to maybe, maybe this could be like a thing. You see people like Ben and Jack and stuff, and that they've got a career out of it, and it's like, oh, maybe it could, maybe I could do that too. And you have to be realistic as well at the same time. So it's like, okay, if I get to this point and I've grown this much, then maybe we're on track. And for me, it kind of very much stalled, and it's massively my own fault. It's partly down to consistency and what have you. But I like going back to kind of doing what you do what makes you happy, if you like.
Yeah.
I kind of flitter between this and doing other bits and pieces here and there. So, you know, maybe I've shot myself in the foot. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I was never good enough in the first place. I'm not sure. I'll never find out. But, you know, I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I don't really care. I'll stream when I want to stream. I'll create YouTube content when I've got the urge to edit something. And, you know, if I get a few viewers here and there, then great. Like, I remember I streamed last WrestleMania, and I was just like, if I get 30 people in, I'll be absolutely over the moon. And we averaged like over 100 people for the 2 nights, both nights of WrestleMania. It was incredible. So I don't know. Like that first year was massive in terms of growth, but then since then it's kind of stabilized and then dropped off, where I've had sort of time off here and there.
Then I don't know, because I think, you know, the sort of not progressing because then it's all your fault is quite a negative way to think about it. Whereas, you know, you can see that if it's not something that's in your interest right now to do full time, you're able to do it whenever you want. Like, I'm sure Ben, Kev, Work the Space, some days can't be asked. Like, anyone just can't be asked, because that's being human, right? Some days you're just not feeling it. The difference
is it's their job, right?
Yeah,
so
they don't
they're
have
obliged.
the freedom. They don't have the freedom to be like, I'll sack it off, because that's money not coming in. You don't get holiday dates when you work for yourself.
But at the time, the thing is, at the time, it's like, you know, like I say, I did have almost, you know, small aspirations to make it some sort of side hustle, certainly.
Yeah.
But I didn't put the work in ultimately, and that was what cost it. Really, it's completely on me, and I'm accepting of that fact.
Yeah.
And like I say, now this is just what I do as a hobby. This is my downtime, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm not watching TV with the missus or out walking the dog or whatever, or, you know, right now, I used to play a lot of golf. And basically, since I've started creating content, I've not played so much golf. But now I'm like, I don't want to play golf again. So it's like, so I don't know. You probably won't see me again for 6 months. So I don't know.
This is the last thing you'll be able to see him on for a while, guys. Make sure you watch the shit out of this video.
But ultimately, like, I'm at peace with that now. And for a long time, I wasn't at peace with that.
Yeah.
For a long time, I'd beat myself up for it. And like, you know, throughout lockdown and what have you, and, you know, had mental health issues and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people have suffered from that. But I think it makes you kind of gain a bit of perspective elsewhere, and just, yeah, like I say, I'm at peace with it now. If I create content, it's because I'm enjoying creating content. I don't feel under any pressure to do so.
Yeah, and I think that is, if it's not your income, that's a really good sort of place to be in. But I've always wanted to kind of ask you guys who are in the WeStreamFM scene how that sort of came to fruition, because, you know, you started that sort of group, you developed a podcast and other ventures. I wonder if they had any experiences that Wasted Possession have had, or anything like that, or, like, you know, what would these guys do if they could do it differently? I don't know if you necessarily see the sort of similarity between. I think there's different cogs to it just because of the time, i.e. the drafts, but there's still that sort of function to produce content as a unit. So I just wanted to ask you the origins of that. You know, who came up with the idea, who sort of took what roles, and then how it's gone out. And obviously for people in that similar space, what do we do?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, because we've seen, and it's kind of off the back of WeStreamFM a little bit, like we've seen a lot of different groups pop up and then disband. And admittedly, like, the WeStreamFM brand, if you like, now is just, you know, it's now gone.
Yeah.
But you know, the focus is now on the podcast. So it started again. So back in 2017, with Dupe and Teach streaming their network save, and there was a viewer in the chat called Friday Night FM, who you may now know from the community. And he basically, him, Dupe, and Teach got in a call and kind of decided that the best way for them to elevate each other was to surround themselves with a group of people who also wanted to be elevated, but also could add some value, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether it be in terms of creativity, whether it be in terms of, you know, just technical help, or whether it just be in terms of, in my case, like just, you know, someone to pick on. But so it started off with Friday Night FM, Teach and Dupe, and then they kind of quickly recruited, if you like, myself, Dave Azzopardi, Nerdphonic, and then, you know, we had some chats around kind of what direction we wanted to take this in, you know, whether we wanted to eventually make it a business, you know, what kind of stuff we could do, and a lot of that never really came to fruition. But what did come was the 5-star pod, which to this day I think is probably still, you know, maybe Streamer Showdown aside, still probably one of the best collaborative projects that's ever happened in the community.
Yeah.
You know, they've passed 200 and maybe 220 episodes now.
Yeah.
And that's weekly. So we've not, you know, there's been no week off since we started. It's been going for over 4 years. So, you know, sit down every Thursday night and record a podcast. And because of that, you know, everyone kept coming back every week. Everyone was streaming regularly. You know, if someone had something graphical that they needed to, you know, advice on or anything like that, we were a group of people who would just bounce ideas off of each other. So it started off like really, really full of energy, really, really creative, and really, really just an essential resource, really.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if someone thought something you did was a bit shit, they'd tell you.
Yeah.
Like we recorded an episode of the podcast, and initially we wanted to do it as a live stream and just release the audio. And because of issues that we had recording that or streaming that, I can't remember exactly what the issue was. It just wasn't usable. But we were going to put it out as episode 1 of the podcast until Friday Night FM said, "Lads, this is shit. Like you can't. Like this is terrible."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Actually, you're right. This is shit." So that has gone down as kind of the infamous episode 0. And then No, I don't think so. I don't know where it is. I don't know if anyone's still got a copy of the audio file or anything, but that does not exist. So episode 1 is actually episode 2 as well. So, but yeah,
episode.
Yeah. So ultimately, it was just a group of guys who wanted to kind of get better.
Yeah.
And we were, you know, everyone knew if anyone was ever critical of something that someone did, it came from a good place. So everything was taken in good faith. And I think, I don't know why other groups have failed. You know, you've got things like CMG and I don't know, loads of other groups I could probably name, but you know, I don't know why they failed, but we just have always like we were mates first, like I say.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing with WeStreamFM is pretty much everyone involved is sort of at a really good level in terms of FM content, right? And when you get to that level, you probably give a shit about it, essentially. And it's...
I don't think we necessarily were when we first. Yes, we were at a level. I think we've all upped that level, but at the same time, it was like, how, you know, let's improve together. So, okay, you know, Curty, you're all right on stream, but your microphone sucks. You know, maybe think about buying a new microphone, or Dupe, like, what the fuck is up with that overlay, mate? It looks shit. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, and none of it was that brutal. It was never that brutal, but you know, it just we weren't afraid to tell each other where we were going wrong, and I think that really, really helped. You know, going back to what I was saying about Nerdphonic when I very first started, he told me exactly what I needed to hear. So I think that's important.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, so you said that WeStreamFM kind of isn't a thing anymore. What is there anything in particular that led to that, or was it just people sort of going their different ways as people do?
I think it just got a bit stale, really. Like we Stream FM was meant to be a group of streamers, right? And it's we've only just sort of pulled the plug on the brand We Stream FM. But I mean, ultimately, about 3 people out of the group were still streaming.
Yeah.
So, when you're not streaming FM and your group's called We Stream FM, it's a bit like.
Oh.
And we've got some really really good guys like Mad FM, for example, who is basically running the website, doing a lot of the blogs and stuff, and working with other bloggers to publish their work. But like in terms of creativity and bouncing ideas off each other and stuff, that just wasn't happening anymore.
Okay.
So still get together every week to record the podcast. But it just, it's the actual sort of streaming side of it just was a little bit dead in the water, to be honest with you. So it kind of made sense. It made sense to stop it now before the start of the new game, I think.
Yeah, of course. So I guess the sort of final question on the WeStreamFM front would be, particularly someone like me, I think, I alluded to it a bit earlier, in that sort of FM group sort of thing, trying to do these different forms of content and help each other out. Is there any sort of advice you'd give to someone like me and anyone else there who's maybe getting involved with something or thinking about getting involved with it?
My advice would be just to talk regularly. And when I say talk, I mean get in a call and talk.
Yeah.
One of the best things, and probably one of the main reason the group lasted as long as it has, is because we get together every single week and talk in a call.
Yeah.
We talk because we record the podcast. So we'd jump on in the evening, and then the first hour would just be us talking bollocks about, whatever's gone on, or what, if you had an experience streaming, or it's just like general conversational stuff, and then you'd record the pod, and then sometimes you'd be on the call till, quite late in the or early hours of the morning. But because we were getting together regularly, like everyone kind of knew what was going on and where they stood, or do you know what I mean? Like there's never any opportunity to, and I don't know. Maybe you find this, but like if you don't speak to someone for a while, or like say you're in a group of people and it's all in text or whatever, and you don't speak to someone for a while, you might think that someone's annoyed with you for some reason, right?
Yeah.
And then you can create this little narrative in your head where everything they say in text form, you think, was that a dig at me? Or do you know what I mean? And then things build up and then they get out of control. And it's happened within WeStreamFM a few times, where someone's not been on the podcast for a few weeks, or something's happened here and something's happened there. But actually the best thing to do is just jump on a call and chat, because it does, honestly, it says so much. It says it could just fix everything. It can, I think it's by far and away the best way to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a group of streamers, or if you have a group of content creators and you're wanting to elevate yourselves, great, but I think in terms of the group dynamic, you need to make sure you're communicating regularly.
Oh, 100%. There's been disagreements and arguments within Raised Possession in the past about sort of direction, but again, we talk every Friday because Friday's draft night.
Yeah.
And we're talking there we're doing anywhere between 3 and 4.5 hours really for the draft, depending on which sort of draft it is. And then afterwards it's all, if we need to talk about anything, we can. So it's quite good that we're taking that sort of step, sort of inadvertently.
Definitely, I think and I think if you ever see someone distancing themselves, or maybe they've got a couple of Fridays off and they've been a bit quiet or something, just reach out and just say, hey, how you doing? Because I think that's so important. That's so important.
100%.
So yeah, just chat regularly, and when I say chat, I don't mean in text form. I mean just jump in a chat and say hello.
Yeah, no, it is good advice. That really is key to keeping things sustainable. And I guess that leads us very nicely to the sort of drafting scene. Now, obviously, we know, I think, I'm pretty sure your first draft appearance would have been on the Streamer Showdown. How did that come about? Because I know that Zealand, Fox, and Ben were sort of in the early sort of development of it, but when did the opportunity kind of come your way?
I can't really remember. All I remember is I remember the chat going on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then it was just like Ben just dropped me a message, went, "Oh, we're doing this. Do you fancy being involved?" Just like, yeah. Of course I do. Why not? Obviously at the time there was no Lowdown show or anything like that. That started for season 2, I think.
Yeah.
So it was just purely like, yeah, it was just a draft between a few people, and like, I think, you know, Ben's a clever guy. I think he knows that for him to grow, because obviously we always look at people like Ben and Jack and go, "Oh, you've reached the ceiling. You know, you can't get much bigger." And I think Ben obviously thought to himself, well, firstly, if I can set up a competition between a load of people, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But secondly, you know, if I can help to elevate other people, then potentially we put more eyes on Football Manager in general, which would mean that hopefully he could grow more as well.
Yeah.
So from his point of view, I think it was a very, very clever thing to do. And also, like, what an effort, like, in terms of community as well. Like, off the back of the Streamer Showdown, you know, how many draft tournaments are we seeing now? Here, left, right, and centre every week. People on Twitch now are doing community drafts every single day.
Yeah.
It's great to watch. But yeah, my involvement was just, I think it was just a DM. I genuinely, like I say, I remember the conversation going on, and I just remember going, yeah, I'll be involved. And I played in seasons 1 and 2, and then very much found my spot on the Lowdown, where I'm incredibly happy. Actually, it's much more fun and much less pressure. Telling people where they're going wrong without actually making any of the decisions myself.
As someone who's on the Wasted Possession commentary every week, I 100% understand where you're coming from. But the thing is, I'll be honest, in terms of Twitch, I never watched it until I was doing it. And particularly with things like the Streamer Showdown, I never really watched it fully. I watched the last one because Mackenzie's my boy, you know? But when I came to watch the Lowdown, you won the sort of lowdown on that commentary and giving that insight. I got vibes from when I first saw what's her name, the Emma Hayes doing commentary for the Euros.
What did that look like?
No. You're much more good looking, mate. No, but in terms of, I was kind of blown away. I'd never really heard Emma Hayes, you know, give that insight before, and I was like, she's really good. And then I saw you on it, and I was like, he's really good. And I was just curious, like, how do you hone that? Was it something that you would just naturally gift of the gab sort of thing, or was it something that you'd had the opportunity to work on?
I'm a little bit sort of thrown by that, really. I never, like, that's very, very, very nice of you to say. I never really sort of consider myself to be like
Twitch's Emma Hayes.
No, well, no. But I can see the likeness. But I don't know. I say what you see.
Okay.
It's one of those things. Like I guess I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to like watching the commentators, and I've got favourite commentators from when I was younger, and like not necessarily like imitate them, but obviously when you're playing Football Manager and FIFA, I don't know if you were ever a kid playing a FIFA, you'd be commentating yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
and WWE games, I used to do both.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know whether it's just like something that's I've picked up, but I've never really considered myself to be good at it as such. It was just something that I do.
I think it's a blend. Like you've got that voice in terms of like very clear, eloquent, and kind of like it's got like that neutral tone where if you told me you were from anywhere in the country, I'd believe you. Whereas if I don't know, if Phil FM told me that he was from down south, I'd be like, "Oh, you know," like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got that, and then I think maybe it's just the insight that you have into Football Manager again. Maybe linking back to them. The reading that you did, moving on to.
I mean, I certainly don't sit at home sort of practicing my commentary. Put it that way.
No, I was just curious because it was really good. Like if I'd heard you on the World Cup, I wouldn't have thought you were out of place, sort of thing. That was my impression.
I don't know. I can talk a bit of shit. Like I'm a consultant at work, so I need to talk a certain amount of bollocks at work. So maybe it's something to do with that as well. Who knows?
That explains it. But
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
It's fine. Telling the truth, mate. Telling the truth. So then, obviously, from the Streamer Showdown, obviously all these other tournaments pop up, including ourselves. Particularly though, with you, the playoffs, the Super League. Two you've won. I see that trophy on your left, the Super League trophy. Let's get it out. It is nice. It is a nice trophy. I'll give him that. Sort of what was your first impression when these were popping up? And I mean, I talked to Ben about it, and he kind of disagreed with me, saying I thought maybe a bit of a risk for the bigger guys to go on who've been on the Streamer Showdown, etc., etc. But what was sort of your approach to them coming up and you taking part?
I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was, I haven't taken part in some of the earlier seasons. It's kind of, but I haven't put myself forward to take part. It was kind of, it's not really like there's no competition, put it that way. There's no competition between like the showdown and the playoffs and the Super League and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you could see that from the fact that Ben was on the bloody playoffs play-by-play.
Yeah.
So I think when something like the Streamer Showdown happens and it's obviously a huge success and then other things pop up off the back of it, people just assume that there's like beef between these tournament creators and stuff like that. And it's just not the case. It really isn't the case. So in terms of competing in them, I was just, when I wasn't streaming, I was focused on being on the Streamer Showdown and stuff like that. So I had no real, and I'd had a rough experience drafting as well. Like those first couple of Streamer Showdowns were pretty tough for me. So when I say I found my spot on the lowdown, I mean it. Like I was so much happier there. So the thought of then going into another competition and drafting just didn't massively appeal.
Yeah.
And I think I got involved with the Super League, for the first Super League. I think Sweet Left Foot was in it, and a couple of other guys who I really liked. And I was like, oh, these guys are in it. It's going to be fairly low pressure and stuff like that. So, yeah, why not? I'll get involved. So season 1 of that, I got to the final, lost to Sweet Left Foot, but I had a lot of fun. To the point where I was just like, oh, maybe I could do a few more of these tournaments. So, yeah, got involved with the playoffs. Obviously, won that first time round, and then the FM Super League. It's funny, the Super League. So they've had 5 seasons now. I've been in 4 of them, and I've got to 3 finals. So, like, for me, that's my tournament now. Yeah. That's my tournament. So, Diz has got the title now, but it won't be for long.
Nah, we love it.
But yeah, so I enjoy it. And weirdly, I wouldn't say I enjoy it more than the Showdown, but in the Showdown, obviously, there's just a hell of a lot more pressure. Just because of the amount of eyes that are on it, I think, as well. And the amount of crap that you're going to get from like Lujo's chat if he beats you and what have you. But I've learned to very much enjoy the drafting side of it as well again. But yeah, I love being on the lowdown. It's great. It's so much fun. It's so much fun just being able to judge people.
Yeah, there's no repercussions because
one thing I will say about being on the lowdown, and I found this being in like the playoffs and the Super League, is that obviously both of those tournaments have, and wasted possession, I guess, but both of those tournaments, obviously being a competitor in both of those tournaments, I watched the play-by-plays back, and one thing I found is that, and I'm guilty of it as well. I've done it loads throughout my time on the lowdown, but if it just seems to be like there's no grey area for stuff. So like if someone loses, they were shit. If someone wins, they were brilliant. But like that's not the case. It's just not the case.
Yeah.
Like you can be incredibly unlucky in defeat, and you can be incredibly fortunate to win. So like I've made a conscious effort in the last couple of lowdowns that I've been on to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So. Yeah, just I don't know. It's one of those things that I've just picked up on recently, and it just annoys me a little bit. Maybe as a competitor, I'm looking at it slightly differently.
It's weird. It's weird. Like I guess the most recent example for us won't be the most recent one this comes out, obviously, but Omega Luke winning the group he was in, Group A. After that, Streamer Showdown result and the previous ones as well. I don't think many would have predicted him to be top in the group. But
no, certainly not me either.
Goes to somewhere else and he does the business. I mean, it's so unpredictable, and I guess there's so many different people playing now with different styles. It can vary.
The wasted possession obviously has the kind of the USP of not knowing who is going to be in the draft pool until the very last minute. So not only does it put your on the pitch skills to test, but it also it's a huge test of your drafting skills, player pool knowledge, and stuff like that. So that is very much the USP. I'll be honest. I'm obviously taking part in the wasted possession.
Yeah,
and I'm terrified. That like on the pitch, I'm fine. Like I know what I kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of know tactically, roughly, what to be doing in certain situations, but drafting is a real weak point, and that's why I've got an assistant manager. And I know it's an ongoing joke that Pumpster's the real brains behind the operation, but he honestly his drafting or his help with the drafting has been invaluable in the competitions that I've done recently. But on the pitch, that's generally me.
I really wanted him to get out of that challenger group, because if he played you,
that
would have been bloody amazing.
I was hoping so much. He started so well as well that night, and then just drifted off towards the end. But yeah, I think he was. I think he wanted it as well. Yeah, he really wanted it as well.
Because it's one of them when we're thinking about people coming in. It's like, if we were to ever to have Sweet Left Foot and Omega Luke be in the same one, it's like we'll try and get them in separate groups, because then there's a chance that they'll play each other in the final or something. Trying to work around that, and I was getting really excited. Like, when would Pumpster versus Curty be a good time to play? Just based off of his early win.
Although I've got a bone to pick.
Go on.
This group that I'm in.
Ah, mate.
What the hell?
Look at the draw. What can I say?
It's a group of death, man. I've been absolutely... So we got Deer, we got Coinbird, and we've got... Goofy
Jord as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Goofy Jord, who's been in phenomenal form.
I think before the Super League, he'd won the last 8 drafts he took place in. Either won the knockout or come first in the league.
Mate,
he's
I'm
won season
worried.
3 of ours.
Yeah. I'm worried I'm finishing bottom of this group, honestly.
But I guess I'm quite excited to have you in.
I'm excited to be part of it.
The Holy Trinity.
Well, yeah. So it's only, myself and Miju who have won 2 out of the 3.
Yep.
Miju's obviously not taking part now. So the door is open, right? I've just got to get past this group of death.
Who's gonna be the first person to do it? And this was when we were coming up with this sort of partnership between the Super League and the playoffs. Because again, I think people thought that we just didn't like each other because we were different groups. But then Moz has been on ours a couple times. Stick Piano, who is sort of the main guy behind the drafts for us, has been on the playoffs a few times. And this partnership just really solidified that. And it was like, we were all thinking who's going to be the first person to do it, to win all 3. And you're the only guy really in the running now. Like, this is like legacy defining stuff.
Oh, cheers, mate. Just put more pressure on.
Oh, yeah, piling it on, mate. But
honestly, I don't know what Coinbird's doing in these drafts, but can we like do some sort of like drug testing or something? Because he just looks unbeatable.
He's amazing. His strikerless tactic is unreal right now.
The only thing, right? So he does things differently, and I can see that. But some of these guys, so like Miju's one, FMD, I think Sai Maggio, like they're all playing the same tactic. I swear they're all playing the same tactic. They've all just downloaded it from the same place, claiming it's their own because they've changed a DLP to a box-to-box midfielder or something, and it's just farcical. I mean, I do have like a tactic. I've played Miju a few times in these competitions now. Yeah. He's never beaten me, and I do have a tactic that I've called the strikerless killer. Whether that will work against Coinbird, I do not know.
Coinbird is the test. I think if you can beat Coinbird with it, then it's done. Like he was in a draft I played last night. And we did the draft. The draft process took like 2 hours because there was like 11 people in on a 1.5 minute timer. And then he was like, I actually need to go walk my dogs and have lunch now. So he didn't play like any games really. And he was still like first 3 games, 3 wins with the AI playing his tactic. It's
Unreal.
Insane. I couldn't believe it. I managed to get a draw. I played him like 4th. I was the first person to take points from him. So he's going to be a big test. The thing with that though is if you manage to like if they are downloaded, which I know Coinbirds isn't. I don't think Daz is. I know Sai Maggio's isn't. You know, like
I don't believe it. You can tell me till you're blue in their face they're not. I'm sure they're all from the same like base tactic and they've just tweaked them.
I mean, we'll have to find out. But if you're the guy who can stop him, because once you've got a tactic that good, a lot of them don't have a plan B. If your tactic is working as the strikerless killer, then realistically, this tournament's yours for the taking, isn't it?
Well, Miju's never beaten me. Sai Maggio's never beaten me. I've never played Derek. And I've never played Coinbird. So, you know, they're obviously 2 prominent users of the strikerless system. So let's see how it goes.
Interesting to see. I can't wait. Obviously, this goes out on the day that you're in. So once people have seen this in, you know, maybe half an hour's time, they'll be able to see the outcome. Go and watch me kill strikerless forever. Just end it. Rest in peace, strikerless. But if you do win this and you get that Holy Trinity, you're someone who is in a position that not a lot of people could do this, and that's go for 4. Now, in terms of levels, I'd say the Streamer Showdown, and then I'd put the playoffs, the Super League, and us sort of in that joint second spot because we all have a good product, and we all have different USPs and methods of doing it. Like ours varies. We don't have a database and the steps, and we have a lot of people in, and the Super League, you know, Roy of the Race coming in. Whatever the comic is, I'm not too familiar, but you know, he's coming in and, you know, getting that sort of thing is a massive USP, and then there's the playoffs as well, who sort of, you know, able to draw big names from the get go and really establish themselves as something quite good. Not a lot of people would have been able to go for the Streamer Showdown as well, and that's something that we didn't particularly consider. Sort of the 4. You could do the 4. I think you could convince Ben to plug you in if you wanted it to go for the 4.
Oh, I think I could if I wanted to, but I do quite like the lowdown. So I don't know, like I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Obviously, you know, in half an hour's time, these viewers might see me getting absolutely battered by everyone, and then this conversation becomes completely redundant anyway. But if I was to do all right in this competition, and you know, maybe be fortunate enough to win it, that would be incredible. And for me, like, it's okay. Like, if we're talking in terms of like levels, I think in terms of prestige, the Streamer Showdown was the first one to kind of properly do it.
Yeah,
it's obviously got a huge amount of exposure and stuff like that, and like you'd probably say that's the one of the 4 that you'd want to win. Yeah. However, when you look at like someone like McKinn's, who has come in straight away, he's drafting regularly.
Yeah.
When I was sort of doing a bit of research for the lowdown and asking people like like Lelujo, like Clates. How much drafting have you done recently? None of them. They haven't been playing the game. They haven't been playing that draft mode. So I think if you open this up now to kind of some of the guys that have been playing in the playoffs or playing in the Super League or playing in the Wasted Possession, it's a real threat to some of these big Streamer Showdown names.
Yeah.
Because these guys are doing it all the time, and these guys, yes, they've got huge audiences and stuff for their solo stuff, but in terms of drafting, they're going to be way behind some of these other guys. So, I don't know. I think for me, I'm enjoying doing all the drafts that I can. If there's like community drafts going on and I can get involved, and I absolutely will try and get involved. I want to do as many of these competitions as possible. But when it comes to the showdown, I don't know. I find it hard to kind of give up that spot on the lowdown. It's something I really, really enjoy doing. And I've been involved in showdowns before where it's gone terribly, and it's one of the worst places to be. Like that, I think I've played in one showdown in FM21, and I finished bottom.
Ooh.
And I got knocked out in the elimination game. And honestly, you just want the whole world to open up and swallow you in, because it's just a horrible place to be. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's see how this weekend goes first.
I think you're saying that, not doing it. But if you did do it, the lore of it would be too much. You could literally, I think you could absolutely shut Kev down. It's like, you might have won this most, but I am the king of draft, sort of.
I probably could have said to Ben, look, I've won the playoffs, I've won the Super League, I've got to be on the showdown. And he probably would have put me in, but I said to him I want to be on the lowdown, because we haven't had a showdown for a few months. And I was like, that's where I want to be. So, but if I get the Holy Trinity, maybe that will change.
I mean, I'm kind of rooting for it, because McKinsey's the only other guy who could do it, and I don't think he's good enough. Like in other draft competitions, I think the experience helped him a lot in the showdown. But when it comes to the other ones, I think he'll always do that Pep Guardiola in the finals of the Champions League or the semi-finals of the Champions League. You know what I mean? He
smashed it in the showdown, though, didn't he? What an absolute legend.
And I've said before, like, Wasted Possession, the draft first one was McKinn's Wasted Possession. We started it together. Like, McKinn's was on like 5 to 8 average viewers. That's where we're coming from. And to see McKinn's do that, everyone, like, me, I was like, what? Like,
in terms of difficulty to win, though, like, yours has got to be the hardest one to win.
I mean, we have the most people in.
You have the most people. It's over a longer period. You have the USP of a completely unknown draft pool. I mean, it's yours is going to be a tough nut to crack, definitely.
And I think as well, like, I think this is what a lot of the guys suffered from in the Streamer Showdown, because they'd never played McKinn's. You don't really know what to expect. But when you're coming to us, there's a good chance that you've not played at least 2 people in the group that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know what to expect. Like, but even, like, it's so up and down. Like, Bargy, for example, won Season 3, was in the Challenger League. None of the other challengers previously had, like, all of them had just finished bottom. Come up from the Challenger League, finish bottom. He then wins his group and then wins the entire thing. So we're all expecting big things for Season 4. He finishes bottom of his group. Gets like 1 win, 1 draw, 4 losses. And I'm just sat there thinking, like, as someone who's, like, developing that product, like, the Wasted Possession started from my Twitch chat sort of thing, so I take a lot of pride in that. When stuff like that's happening, I'm just sat there like, are you going to see this anywhere else sort of thing? That arrogance and, like, my head gets so swollen. Like, that's not happening in any other competition. And that's what I quite like about it, just that unpredictability. And as well, like, obviously, guys like you, guys like Luke, coming in and playing people who, sub 200-300 followers. It's not something that's very likely to happen in a lot of other competitions, because we have the Challenger League set up to shine that light on smaller creators. And having that exposure for them guys, and, like, having guys like yourself and all the other bigger guys who've come in more aware of the individuals of the community, because you're having that interaction and you're speaking to them, and to a degree you're more invested in them because you're in that same product. I think that's the goal of it, just to help the community. And I think that's something we're doing really, really, really well right now, and I hope it continues. But more than anything, I hope you get the win and get the 3 and then the 4.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. That I mean, yeah, finishing off FM21 with the 3 would be the icing on the cake.
I'm already envisaging the like Thanos Infinity Gauntlet graphic that someone's going to make.
Like, I'm gonna during my thank you speech, there's going to be tears everywhere, so have the tissues ready.
Dedicating it left, right, and center. I guess. This is sort of, we're coming towards the sort of end. What is sort of next for you in this sort of space? Because I know we've talked about you kind of doing it as a hobby when you kind of feel like, but from the conversation we had today, I'm thinking maybe you prefer that sort of behind the scenes role sort of kind of thing, like your involvement with the Streamer Showdown. You're not like there's a reason why the competitors get individual, these are the guys who are coming on, and then the lowdown gets its own graphic because people are there to see the participants. But that role of being, behind the scenes is also quite important as well. Where do you sort of envisage yourself going with, how it is right now?
I just want to kind of. Yeah, I mean, I've got plans to create content around FM22. Like, I've got sort of video ideas and stuff. I've recorded a video that I'll be releasing. Well, it will have been released by the time this comes out. So there'll be bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
Like, and I think people have gotten used to the fact now with me that I'm not going to promise anything. Like I've had my issues with kind of mental health and stuff like that, where I've had massive lulls and just not had the drive to create anything. But at the same time, like there's certain stuff that I absolutely love doing. Talk about the showdown. I love being involved in some way, shape, or form in that. I like doing these drafts, to be honest with you. So I think a lot of what I do going into FM22 will be mainly kind of collaborative with bits and pieces here and there. Like I'm thinking about doing something on Twitch, but it's like, actually, I kind of want to do a network save with someone, So who can I do a network save with? Because I like having someone to bounce off of. I did one with Herb in FM20, which went down really well.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's an opportunity there again, or. So, honestly, like that's the flakiest answer you're probably going to get to that question, because truthfully, I don't know, like, I just don't know firmly like what my plans are. Essentially, there'll be bits here and there, and I'm still amazed that people still turn up when I hit start streaming, or or watch a video that I release and stuff like that. It's still mind-boggling to me that people still like want to watch my content or be there when I'm streaming. But for some reason they do, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So, I'm sure that time will come where that's not the case.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna enjoy doing what I do, and while I can. And I'll enjoy doing it when I want to, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what you got coming out. I'm looking forward to how you do on that Friday, which is today for everybody watching, and the chase for the 3. But until that time comes, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate you coming in, sitting down, and talking with myself. And yeah, all the best in the tournament tonight.
Well, thank you for having me on, and just don't be too hard on me on the play-by-play when I finish bottom.
You don't have to worry about me. It's Z. It's bad lip you got to worry about. He will completely tear you apart, mate.
Well, I tell you what, if I do get knocked out, maybe in the knockout stages, I could pop on for a bit of the play-by-play at some point, and we can have it out. But I don't know. I'll just put you on the. I'll put you on the spot there. I didn't expect you to say yes or no.
I'm thinking about that pre-show. Maybe we could have like a promo.
I'm good at that. I could do that.
WWE style. That's what I'm thinking. But we'll develop it. But yeah, thanks again, Curty, and thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, sub, all that stuff, and I'll see you next time. See you later.